going through the apprenticeship and being a senior pilot for 41 years on the river. I started off in as an apprentice pilot, and then for a certain amount of time this fellow here went and put me as second mate on the Mersey coast, I think it was, which was to go towards a ticket before I could become a pilot.
Can you remember the skirmish yet? The Cunard tender?
No, I can't.
No.
I'm a youngster around here,
that's
really,
right, yeah.
compared with these fellas. I'm not the. I don't know how I became chairman of the club at such an early age, really, because there were an awful lot of fellas that deserved the post far more than I did. But
perhaps they thought we'd get a young one who lasts longer.
I think my name came out the hat. That's
Yeah.
But the fact that you were a pilot on a river, when I say, well, deep sea fellas would say, God, that's a soft number. But it wasn't really, was it? Because there was some horrendous accidents.
I would say it was anything but a soft number, really. It was a very exciting number, I can say that. But the thing is that the one thing that people don't realise about a pilot is the fact that other than deep sea men, they get used to their own ship. They have their own ship, it's the same ship. Or they go to another ship in the company and they probably spend quite a long time on that ship, so they get to know every ship's got its own idiosyncrasies, as you know. But as far as a pilot is concerned, he gets thrown on board every different kind of ship, and everyone's got its own.
Did you have any little accidents with it, like in that sense?
Luckily, I only had little accidents. I've never really had any big
Not
ones.
big ones. You didn't crash into New Brighton Ferry, like?
No, I never touched New Brighton. I had a close call with it once, with a fellow that put the wheel the wrong way when we were on a big bulk carrier going into Gladstone. But I didn't actually hit it. I thought for 1 minute I might do, but I didn't.
The reason I mentioned the dangers, I had a friend, and he was a pilot, and I remember the pilot ship sinking off Formby.
Oh yeah,
and he
goes back just before the war.
He was one of the lads that was lost, you know.
Well, there was a big loss of life on that.
The worst part of it, they could see him, and they couldn't get to him, you know.
That's right.
Terrible.
That's right. There was a big loss of life on that, yeah.
And then, as you say, the varying ships. I mean, I only came up the river once. I was on a fleet minesweeper during the war.
Yeah.
And the pilot skipped aboard from his pinnace, whatever it was. And I thought, I wonder what he thinks about our little boat. He had to take in liners or, you know, I bet it was like a
I don't know, sometimes
Coming number 6.
the thing is, when you were on the bigger ships, you've got tugs and everything involved. Everybody's on top line, the tugs are on top line,
Yeah.
the crew ashore are on top line, and the pilot himself and the master are on top line, because this is a hazardous part of the ship's voyage, or the most hazardous part. But when you get on the smaller ships, you can get a little bit blasé, and if that happens, you can very quickly get into a lot of trouble, you know, if you don't suddenly realise that you can have just as big an accident with a small ship as you can with a big ship.
And now when
it may
you
not make as big a bang, but it still happens.
Now when you see the river so empty, I could cry, because when I was a kid, you could look across, well, you couldn't look across the river.
Well,
The number of masts was like a forest. And as a child, we go across on the ferry, and we try to outdo each other. The flags of origin, you know. Never seen that one before.
As I say, I was a comparative youngster compared with a lot of members of the club. But, when I started piloting, there'd be anything up to 100 ships moving on the river at the same time. And none of them had VHF sets and all this lot where they could talk to each other. It was just a case of everybody knowing where everybody else was going. But,
it's sad to see where the river's land, wouldn't it?
that's right. Yeah.
Did you use the radar very much in this way? Like?
Yeah, we used the radar considerably, but once you got anywhere near the channel, into the channel or into the river, until the latest radars came along, which were like berthing radar, which can give you a perfect picture of anything that is close aboard. Once you'd got anywhere near the channel, it was just go back to your own training and instinct then, because the radar wasn't a great deal of use to you once you got in between the channel buoys and the revetments and all the rest of it, because the echoes were so cluttered on the old type radar that really, once you'd got into the channel, you could forget it. It was nice to put your head into it occasionally to make sure that either the compass was right on the ship or your course was right.
Once you get very heavy rain there,
That's
it's
right,
absolutely
rain,
blanks out completely.
So,
It's useless then.
But of course, the improvement that they made on radar
Oh,
since then, now you do have like a channel radar, which will assist you up the channel, because it's a different type of radar than the old type, which was purely and simply really designed to avoid close proximity of ships in the open water. Well, once you get near a port, you can't avoid close proximity to start with, and it's not open water. So
You've got to
until
know
you
all
get
your
to the
boys
latest
then,
type of
haven't you?
radars, it's not a great deal of use to you.
Okay, right. Our next, our
Ronnie.
secretary.
Yes, sir.
Your name, please, and
Ronnie Morrison.
secretary of our esteemed branch, the Anchorage Club. Could you tell us about your ships, please?
Well, I retired as Marine Manager of P&O Ferries. Prior to that, I was Chief Marine Superintendent for Coastlines and Associated Companies. But you reminded me of an accident that I was in, and that was in a cattle ship coming into the river one very frosty November misty morning, and we collided with the Empire Brent, which was outward bound with 1,500 Canadian war brides. And we finished up on our side on Pluckington Bank. And Meat was then in great demand, of course, and they were on the certificates we had to draw. I can't think of the name at the moment. So they rescued what cattle they could before they rescued us. We were the last to be rescued. It was strange, because when I was a cadet, I was sent to a passenger ship called the Letitia. I joined a Donaldson line as a cadet, and the first day I joined the Letitia, this was a passenger ship, we were due for cruising down the Mediterranean, and I was the junior cadet, and I was sent up to the master, and the master said, "Now your important job," he said, "is to water my plants, my house plant, because I'm there to study navigation." And he had 40 plants. He was a plant fanatic. And by the time we got to Jib, I'd killed them all. I was hopeless at looking after plants. And when we went into the High Court after the incident with the Empire Brent, of course, was the Letitia. And the captain of the Empire Brent was the captain of the Letitia. When he saw me, he said, "Oh my God, now I know how it happened." That's a true story.
Not only plants you kill.
Yes.
Well, there's cattle drifting up and down the river.
Well, you see, this is the reason why Alec and I decided to do this, because these stories, once we pass on, they'll be gone forever,
Exactly.
and they never be. It won't happen again, will it? Because we haven't got.
But you can, once again, in the kind of jobs, anybody who's been to sea has got a story to tell.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. A lot of people can't get up and tell it. That's the unfortunate part. You do that, fellas. The history that there is down in that room down below at the present moment is phenomenal.
We find it
Half the
difficult
time
to
you
draw
can't.
people out.
Yes.
That's
yes,
right.
yeah.
That's right. It's a very difficult
We're not
thing.
experts at this, but we'd like to be friendly and keep it as informal
Yes, yeah.
and get the basics down on tape, because no way we're going to write it down in longhand, are we?
It's very difficult, I think, to get people to talk in front of. Whereas and the same as taping. If you say you sit at the table and talk, and they'll talk. Once you say tape, they dry up. Don't they?
So start sounding at H's and everything like that.
Yes.
Right, can we go over to the treasurer now?
The man with the money bag.
So could you tell us your name, please?
Yeah, my name's Ron Collier.
How long have you been treasurer?
Well, I've been treasurer now for 4 years.
And a sterling job he does.
Very excellent.
He does, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your ships,
I started serving my time in 1938 as an apprentice with the old British Tanker Company, and I went right through the war and carried on in the company until the 70s for 39 years with them as master.
You were on tankers all through the war?
Yes.
Oh, gee.
And I was on one cargo ship. We had one cargo ship there, the Kuzestan there. I was chief officer of her in just right after the war there, but she was only 100 700 tons there, and running around the Persian Gulf there, and that's my cargo ship experience there. I did 18 months on her on Eastern Service there, and that was a jolly. But the rest of the time on tankers, and gradually from the old 10,000 tonners getting bigger and bigger, and till the kind of monsters that you've got these days there.
Did you have any mishaps during the war with tankers then?
I was sunk.
Was you?
And,
Yeah. Whereabouts
very
was that?
And in the North Sea on full cargo of 100% octane fuel there, blown up there, and we sank in about 15 minutes. But
Yeah.
the ship's back was broken there, and there was oil pouring out everywhere. But we lost all the people in the engine room there, and
Did it go on fire? Like?
no,
you were
luckily,
lucky.
no,
then.
it didn't. It was, I mean, it was absolutely incredible. There.
I don't think you'd have been here to tell the story.
No.
I mean, having seen, I mean, our company, we lost 45 ships during the war, and I saw some of them going up like that, and I mean, there was no hope at all there. It was just instantaneous, and to get off as we did with a cargo like that, and
You were very lucky, weren't you?
Yes, and the only people that actually were lost were in the engine room there, because the engine room was flooded there, and
yeah.
nobody came out of that there, and but we just dived over the side there, and picked up on December the 2nd in the North Sea there. Not very,
There's no-
it's 7:20 in the morning. It's not very nice.
The thing that galls me now, because the war's been gone a long time, but still it hurts me to think that the merchant navy have got an ounce of recognition that they should have had. You know, I was on Russian convoys for quite a long time, and I was on a fleet minesweeper, 875 tons, and some of the guys that was grousing about it,
Right, you want it.
the pay the merchant navy got compared to ours. I said, you should never talk about bringing people's pay down to your level.
No.
You should talk about getting yours up to theirs. But I mean, it never entered my head about the payment, because your life was more important than money, wasn't it? And then you'd see a tanker go. My worst experience was on PQ-17 the day before we scattered.
The famous convoy.
I came up out of the engine room, and just then this torpedo with this ammunition ship. I can still see it. It's just a great big orange flame, and all those lovely lads, all the brains, all the expertise and knowledge.
That's right.
It was horrendous.
But I think it
The other
goes.
sad one was the decoy convoys. Remember they had decoy convoys
Oh,
that
yeah.
were sent out with containers on deck which were supposed to carry tanks and everything, and they were the decoy for the main convoys. A lot of the masters in our company went on those.
Yeah.
And what was the war bonus? £1, 4 and 6 a week?
Two pound.
Well, that's on tankers.
Yeah. No, it was about £1, 4 and 6.
Did you get more on tankers as a wage?
No. It was, we didn't get only the
I
ordinary.
thought the war bonus was more.
No, you got a war bonus.
Only the war bonus there, and I mean, my apprenticeship, which was the standard for apprentices, was £65 for 4 years apprenticeship, 10, 12, 18 and £20 for 4 years, and £5 at the end if you completed your apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And,
So what would you...
and when I was 17 there, just turned 17 when the war started there, and I mean, we got £2.50, I £2.50 then as war bonus on top of my £12 a year, and I was a millionaire.
It was a lot of money, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
and then I went across to the Eaglet there, and got a merchant seaman gunner's course there, and I think I got 5 shillings a week extra for being a merchant seaman gunner there.
Well, of course,
in the money.
Because the Indian crews, they thought it was marvellous getting the £1, 4 and 6, because that was their weekly wage, so they had a 100% increase in their weekly wage.
They could do a lot with that, couldn't they?
Yeah. we were only talking the other day about use by date on food and milk, and we're talking about, I remember when I was a cadet, we used to have condensed milk,
Yeah.
and we used to punch 2 holes in the condensed
Blow it
milk,
through.
and everybody blew on the one. We had 2 matchsticks in it to keep the cockroaches out.
Yeah.
When my wife said to me, looking at cake, and I said, I'm not eating that, I said, what about the condensed milk?
Oh yeah.
After it ran out, and everyone blew on it.
It used to go pink when it got old, didn't it? You used to open the tins there and it'd be absolutely purple, and Stu was still putting it out.
The
So-
chief steward was the doctor. Do you remember?
So you would only be young then, wouldn't you, really?
Oh,
Yeah, well, I was 16 when I went to see it.
Yeah, that's what I say, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
I was very young. I was still at school then.
But to think, try and explain to these people now, where you pick up the paper or listen to the television, where a woman in the army, she becomes pregnant
Yes.
and claims
Oh,
half a
oh,
million
yes.
It's the most ludicrous thing.
And you know what? You try and tell people now who didn't experience the war that when a ship was sunk, that very day the pay stop.
The pay
Yes,
stop.
Yes.
yeah.
They said, I don't believe that. It
Yeah.
couldn't be that high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
However long, you know.
Even in the Navy, our pay didn't stop because there
Yeah.
wasn't that much.
But
to
when you
stop.
when you put your claim in, when you put your claim in after you'd been sunk, everybody had a frock coat, didn't they? And gold cufflinks and a Cartier watch.
Well, the chap when we were sunk there, I know we went ashore and the chap from the Ministry of Transport came down. He said he dished the forms out. He said
Yeah.
put in for twice the amount of it because it would be cut down in any case there.
Yes,
I think
terrible.
I lost all my everything, all my stuff. I think I got £60.
And the suits, they used to send you to one tailor in Liverpool, must have been a racket, and you look like convicts. You know, the short drain pipe trousers and heavy
Look at Jim
coats.
Crow, who told the story. He'd been, this is our
Oh,
last German who
He's a lovely man, wasn't he?
Oh.
Hell of a chap he was.
Oh.
And I only wish he was
Oh,
here to
Oh,
say
okay.
something to it.
Yeah.
But wasn't it his story about when he'd been mined or torpedoed and he'd been put on another ship and had come to Glasgow and was on his way down from Glasgow and they arrived at, I think it was Preston,
Yeah.
and there was a NAFI canteen on Preston Station. And he had his merchant navy. He had his merchant navy badge on. And when he got into he went for a cup of tea at the NAFI. And the NAFI said, "I'm sorry, you're not in uniform. You're not in the war. You
Yes.
can't have a cup
Yeah.
of tea."
Yeah, it's a-
And he said, "Well,
Sickness.
he said, I've just spent so many days in an open boat and all the rest of it. If that's all this badge is worth, then you can have it." And he took it off and threw it across the canteen.
Disgusting,
And
wasn't
he
it?
walked out, and that's the scene. I think very probably there's about
Yeah, if it
40 or
stopped.
50 members down there waiting for a meeting to start. So I think.